Hey everybody, thank you for sticking around. I know it's been a long day, sort of winding down the end of the day. I'm sure you're all looking forward to dinner. Hopefully everyone's got a beer. I'll try not to keep you long. My name is Nigel Dennis. I'm from the Office of Experience. As an executive creative director, I manage a team of designers and writers, partnering with UX architects and engineers, ultimately building what we think are our best-in-class e-com experiences. I'm going to talk about something a little different today. We probably all understand what a design system is and what they're really meant to do, and the scope, limits, and potential of them. But I want to think about them a little bit differently as sort of transformation catalysts, as opposed to a simple library of design components that a designer might love and an engineer might tolerate. Thinking honestly, we deserve better than those component libraries. We deserve a system as business partners to our clients, and as we're building new experiences for our clients deserve better. They deserve the ability to see scale within the work we're doing, and for us to deliver upon it. So let's start off a little bit simple here. Understanding what our design system should ultimately provide, right? I think we would not be surprised by any of these things on the screen here. First of all, cost savings. We think about reduced development costs. That feels inherent, right? The lower maintenance overhead also feels inherent, alongside the decreased design iteration cost. If we're starting with a foundation, we're not always starting from zero, should be more efficient on paper. Time efficiencies. In the same hand, I think faster time to market with different features, different abilities of our own systems. Thinking about the capabilities of all of you in the room and the products that you offer. Having that strong foundation should, in theory, create sort of faster time to market. It also allows us to accelerate prototyping as we think about speed and efficiency there. And we should also streamline handoffs. This is, from firsthand experience, one of the most painful parts of being a designer, and something that I think that as designers, A, we can be better at, and B, can we actually use the tools at our disposal without having to go through rigorous documentation. There are tools that exist in the things we are working in the tools that we are using to build these systems that actually make that handoff a bit easier. So, should create a lot of time efficiency. Team optimization. Obviously, we're talking about reduced cross-team dependencies, onboarding speed, right? If we've got a foundational library that people can understand and inherit, we're less dependent on people being that sort of knowledge base for your entire team. It allows us to focus on high-value work as well. If we've got 70% of the work done by our design system, the 30% that we're left open to innovate is all the better. And lastly, I think the most obvious one is creating a consistent user experience through design, through patterns, through expectations, all of the above. However, what if our design systems are actually the things that are holding us back? What do I mean by that? When I think about the organizations we work with, and probably people that you've worked with and organizations you've worked with, maybe your own organization might be set up this way. Design systems are thought in a very sort of crude way. We use Figma as our primary tool. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that tool at this point. It's become pretty ubiquitous in the last 5 years. You might still be on Sketch or something like that, Adobe XD, whatever it might be. We think about our design systems in a very simple way. Pairing a library with simple documentation, or very robust, depending on the organization. As I said, used by designers, tolerated by engineers. This is not a knock on engineering, this is more of a knock on designers. We geek out over this stuff and we get really excited about the details, and we forget who our actual audience is sometimes. And so we love these tools, but we need to be more inclusive of our entire partnership and our entire team. And then lastly, we measure success by consistency alone, oftentimes. We look at a design system, we say it's working, we don't necessarily see the forest for the trees and think about the possibility of scale, of creating efficiency, and actually creating space for innovation. So where I think we can be, or I think most of us deserve to be, design systems as transformation engines, right? So thinking, instead of just the library that we're maybe managing day in and day out, how can we see it as a transformation engine? Thinking about the ability to scale long-term. Sharing a vision. Instead of creating a tool that might work for some and be tolerated by others, how do we create a more shared vision across all of our teams? I think about the struggles that have come up in creative teams in the past, the amount of times I've said, go get a beer with somebody and understand what makes them tick. We need the equivalent of that in the work that we are doing, understanding a shared vision, sharing that with your partners, ultimately creating better work. And lastly, measuring success by actual business impact. I think there are things that we can actually measure in the work that we're doing as creatives and as engineers to actually create that efficiency and create meaningful business impact. So how do we do that? I think it's pretty simple. To start, we need to change our thinking. We need to change the way we approach our partnerships, the way we reach across the aisle, and sort of, there's always competing interests when it comes to certain teams and the goals of individual teams, and it's time for us to come together and think about changing our thinking together. So, what can we be doing to better set ourselves up for that transformation? Think about it in 3 shifts. Pretty simple ones, to be honest. The first one is constraint. Easier said than done, but if we stop saying you can't and start saying here's how, we enable people, we enable our teams, we enable our design teams, we enable our engineering team, and we find pathways to success. The second one, let's stop writing specs. Nobody reads. I think a lot of times designers are left with a task or partnering with a BA, for example, to create documentation. Oftentimes that goes flying out the window. There are better things that we can do and start thinking about building understanding as opposed to rigorous documentation. Thinking about design intent in particular. I talk a lot about that with my design team. Does the engineer that you're working with understand what you're trying to accomplish? That's ultimately the goal. So we often count components and thinking about that within the context of our design tools. But what if we stopped measuring that and started measuring the impact as I talked about and started thinking about our design systems as a business accelerator? Our approach at OX is pretty simple. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of brain rewiring, but it is very effective. And it's pretty simple. We encourage our designers to think like engineers. The more often that they are doing this, the more often they understand, and more often they're asking questions that mean a lot to the engineering team, the more they're building intelligent systems, intelligent design systems that can work across a multitude of projects, a multitude of channels, and ultimately foster that innovation. Our goal for doing that is to create one team, one language, and one vision. So everyone's sort of working from the same playbook. It goes beyond daily stand-ups. It's making sure that we're asking the right questions of the right people to gain true understanding and a shared vision. The result, I think we can do pretty well. We've seen this internally, a lot less rework when we're all working from the same shared vision and shared understanding. We've got a lot faster delivery of our changes and of our work when we are owning the design system, and it has these bits of rigor put into it. And we are enabling innovation 100% more by getting rid of the minutia and focusing on the larger business impact moments within a design system. So let's focus on transformation. What does that really mean? I think there's 4 pillars. Think about the intelligent foundations that are the catalyst of those things. Scaling without complexity, breaking down those walls I talked about, the idea of going to get a beer with somebody and talking about what makes them tick, and then future-proofing those foundations. The first one is, let's talk about intelligent foundations. So let's think about a traditional approach. Let's say you've got 500 components that make up your design library currently. Any kind of change, if your system isn't documented appropriately, you're talking about thousands of variations. You're talking about just unruly sort of documentation and organization of your design library. That is a maintenance nightmare for everyone involved. What I'm proposing is that we think a bit more intelligently about the things that are at hand. There's tools that integrate well from a design perspective. My team is actively looking into ways to connect Figma to Storybook, for example, to create more living libraries of these components. And this token-based thinking is already built into a lot of the systems that we work with, and it's largely agnostic. So we can start thinking about these things in this way to create this token intelligence. When we think about primitive tokens, what do we mean? We're talking about the basic cores of our brand. This is where typography, color, scale, all of these things that matter to our interfaces, matter to our platforms, our apps, our experiences. This is where the core of it lives. We start to give meaning to it through semantic tokens. Put very simply, what a button hover state might be, applying those primitive tokens to that through different shades of color, whatever it might be. We start to apply meaning to our design system through those semantic tokens. We create infinite scale in doing this as well. So when we think about infinite scale, here's an example of the token intelligence I'm talking about. Imagine you've got a brand. Your brand is core color is orange. You're going to blue. You decide, okay, we need to change our entire design system. We need to change all of our products. We need to change everything in our property base to this blue. How do we do that? Potentially updating one primitive token, cascading into 50 semantic updates, and potentially 500 component changes in 1 second. So we're thinking about efficiency, the ability to update our design systems at scale very quickly and very intelligently if this foundation is set up. Thinking about scale without complexity. So we imagine one system with infinite expression, right? So multiple properties come from that single foundation. We can build from this one core system and think about the countless configurations without ever duplicating anything. This allows us to personalize experiences a bit further. Think about the roadmap that we all share towards AI, those different variations we might require for different levels of personalization. This allows us to do that more effortlessly. And that linear effort has exponential outcomes. Breaking down walls, as I said, thinking about a shared vision, getting people on the same page and kind of sharing the same ideas and sharing their intent and their vision for the work on an individual and a team level. When designers start to ask questions like, what's the data structure? What's the performance cost? And will this scale? You've also got engineers starting to ask questions like, what's the user trying to achieve? How should this feel? And what's the problem we're solving? I think that last question, what's the problem we are solving, is something that we can all sort of rally around. We start to think about design intent and those sorts of characteristics of the project at hand. It really allows us to pave a way for that. Designers start to understand what true component properties and limitations are. They start to understand performance implications and structural needs as well. Trust me, this is not come sort of first nature for designers. This is not something we're thinking about all the time, but it's something that we've actively been getting better at Office of Experience, and something we try to work on through all of our work. Engineers understand that user journey context. They understand experience priorities and they understand design intent. Can't emphasize how important that is when it comes to interaction principles and things like that, just understanding what the intent of the design system might be. We can also future-proof our foundations. So think about it as a single definition with multiple interpretations. Our platform translations stay consistent. There's no surprises. And our new channels that we might work in, they inherit the logic that we're building from the foundational setup. And those changes, as I said, cascade predictably. We can anticipate what those large-scale sort of primitive tokens might have an impact on our design system early without any sort of surprises. So there's a lot of aspirational thinking here, and if I think about the folks in the room right now, there are things that we can do right now that we can apply to our work, and it's something that we're actively applying to the things we're doing at Office of Experience. So where can we begin our sort of transformation journey when it comes to design systems and how they might help out our business? We can start simple and start very smart. Taking a foundation-first approach, audit what you've got. Identify a single pain point and let's go at it. Identify your champions and foster the true partnerships. So, traditionally, I come from a traditional advertising background. You think about an art and copy partnership. I think that in the digital age that we live in, a design and engineering collaboration is necessary. So identifying the true champions, people who want to see change, and foster those partnerships for them. Define those primitive tokens. Identify a primitive token set that you can start to establish around your brand, your product, your team's brand, and start foundational, but think transformative. How is this going to set us up for very long-term success? And lastly, transforming that one critical workflow. What's the one thing that's been sticking out to you, something that you wish you could change effectively and efficiently, and go at it? That small investment will likely have massive returns. And I think philosophically, we can just stop settling. I think if we're all trying to build systems that are accelerating as fast as the world around us, and can match that speed and that pace. So, just thinking ahead, our customers deserve better than just consistency. Our teams deserve better than merely translating something that's in front of them. And our businesses deserve better efficiency. So there's a ton to be learned. There's the obvious things that are staring us in the face when it comes to design systems and what their capabilities are. But really thinking about the foundational element that I talked about with tokens and that sort of thing, the primitive semantic token establishment sets us up for long-term success. We think about a vision for a product, a vision for a brand. We build these sort of foundational elements. The rest of it becomes about innovation. So, in closing, let's go from managing components to enabling transformation. That's really what this is about. I think that there's a great opportunity to create enablement amongst our teams. A lot of times, it comes down to resources or time. Enabling and taking a risk and creating a lot of efficiency through our team's own motivations is a great place to start. So, thank you very much. My name is Nigel Dennis from the Office of Experience. We got some golf balls out there. You guys should come and grab them. We also are giving away a couple Yeti cooler backpacks if you put your business card in our little fish bowl, so feel free to do that. But thank you for your time, and I hope this was informative. Thanks.